The space station floated in the darkness like a metal flower. Its silver arms stretched out in all directions, each one designed for a different alien species. Ambassador Hyun looked out the window of the human transport ship as they got closer. 3 years of war had led to this moment. "Are you ready for this?" asked Day, the military advisor sitting next to him. Day had scars on his face from the Battle of Europa. His uniform was clean, but his eyes were tired. Hyun nodded slowly. "As ready as anyone can be for something like this." Behind them, Yuna was reading reports on her tablet. She was the team's expert on alien biology and behavior. Her job was to understand how the different species thought and acted. She looked up from her reading. "The station has representatives from all 12 species of the Galactic Council," she said. "The Vith will speak through clicking sounds. The Gel communicate with musical tones. The Moor use chemical signals we can smell." Day laughed, but there was no humor in it. 3 years ago, they were trying to kill us. Now they want to talk. "That's because they realize they can't win," said Tay, the team's economic specialist. She was young, but very smart about trade and resources. The war has cost them too much. Their ship docked with the space station. The docking bay was huge and empty except for a few maintenance robots. As they walked through the corridors, Hyun noticed how quiet everything was. The walls were made of a strange metal that seemed to change color as they walked past. "Welcome to Concordia Station," said a mechanical voice from speakers in the ceiling. "Please follow the blue lights to the meeting chamber." They followed, a line of blue lights on the floor. The corridor was long and curved. Through windows on the sides, they could see other ships docked at the station. Some were familiar human designs. Others looked like nothing Hyun had ever seen before. "How many aliens are we meeting?" asked Day. 36 representatives," answered Yuna. 3 from each of the 12 species. They've been planning this meeting for months." "And we brought 4 people," said Tay. "They must think we're not taking this seriously." Hyun smiled. "Or they think we're very confident." The meeting chamber was enormous. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into shadows. The room was circular with different sections for each species. Some areas had water for aquatic beings. Others had different types of air or gravity. The human section was simple. 4 chairs around a small table. No special equipment or decorations. It looked tiny compared to the elaborate setups for the other species. As they took their seats, alien representatives began to enter the chamber. The Vith came first. They looked like giant insects with 6 legs and 4 arms. Their exoskeletons were dark blue and reflected the lights in the room. When they moved, their joints made clicking sounds. Next came the Gel. They were made of living crystal that grew from the floor in beautiful patterns. They had no fixed shape, but could form bodies when they needed to. The crystals sang in soft, musical tones that filled the air. The Moor were the strangest. They looked like colored gas clouds that moved with purpose. Their communication came through chemical smells that changed meaning based on concentration and mixture. Special devices in the room translated these into words the other species could understand. Other aliens followed. Some walked on many legs. Others floated. A few looked almost human, but with skin colors that ranged from deep purple to bright orange. All of them stared at the small human delegation. "They seem surprised," whispered Yuna. "Good," replied Hyun. A Vith representative clicked, loudly. The translation came through speakers. "We welcome the humans to these peace negotiations. We hope to end the conflict between our species and yours." Hyun stood up. He was tall for a human, but still shorter than most of the aliens in the room. "Thank you for the invitation. We also hope to find a peaceful solution." A crystal formation that was clearly a Gel leader sang a complex melody. The translation said, "Your species has fought well, but surely you understand that continued resistance is pointless. Our combined forces are too strong." "Perhaps," said Hyun, "but strength isn't always about numbers or weapons." The comment seemed to confuse the aliens. Several species began communicating among themselves in their own languages. The sounds of clicking, singing, and chemical reactions filled the air. Day leaned forward in his chair. They expected us to come here begging for mercy. Instead, we came here to talk as equals, added Tay. A cloud of orange gas that represented the Moor spoke through chemical signals. Your delegation is very small. Do you not take these negotiations seriously? Yuna answered before Hyun could. Speak. She stood and made a series of clicks with her tongue that sounded like the Vith language. Then she hummed a melody similar to gel communication. Finally, she released a small chemical marker from a device on her belt. The aliens went silent. What Yuna had done was say, "We understand you in 3 different alien languages at the same time. We take these negotiations very seriously," she said in standard galactic language. "That's why we came prepared." Hyun looked around the room. Every alien representative was staring at them now. Some seemed curious, others appeared nervous. "We propose a 3-day negotiation period," announced Hyun. "Each day we'll discuss different aspects of a potential peace agreement, trade, territory, and mutual cooperation." "What terms do you bring?" asked a purple-skinned humanoid from the Kex species. "Terms that will benefit everyone," replied Hyun. The lead Vith clicked rapidly. The translation was, "That's impossible. In war, there are winners and losers. The losers must pay." Hyun smiled. "Who says anyone has to lose?" This statement caused an even bigger reaction. Aliens began talking excitedly in their own languages. The chamber filled with a chaos of sounds and smells. Day watched the reaction carefully. His military training helped him read body language, even alien body language. "They don't understand what we're offering," he said quietly. "They will," replied Hyun. A representative from the aquatic null species spoke from their water tank. "Human delegation, please clarify your position. Are you surrendering or not?" "We're not surrendering," said Hyun clearly. "We're offering something better than victory or defeat." The chamber fell silent again. The alien representatives looked at each other with what could only be described as confusion. Yuna stepped forward. "We've studied your species for 3 years. We know what each of you values, what you fear, what you need to survive and grow." "As have we studied you," clicked the Vith leader. "Have you?" asked Tay. "Then tell us what humans value most." The aliens exchanged glances. After a long pause, the gel sang, "Territory, resources, dominance." Day laughed. "Wrong." "Then what?" demanded the Moor representative. Hyun looked around the room, meeting the eyes or equivalent sensory organs of each species. "Understanding. We value understanding above everything else." Understanding. The question came from multiple species, at once. "Understanding leads to cooperation," explained Yuna. "Cooperation leads to mutual benefit. Mutual benefit leads to peace that lasts." The chamber was quiet for a long moment. Then the Vith leader clicked slowly. "These negotiations will be interesting." As the session ended for the day, the human delegation returned to their quarters on the station. The rooms were simple and functional. Through the windows, they could see stars and the distant glow of the system's sun. "That went well," said Tay as she reviewed her notes. "They're confused," observed Day. "They expected a surrender ceremony, not actual negotiations." Yuna was already preparing for the next day. "They'll understand soon enough. We're not here to lose or win. We're here to change how they think about victory itself." Hyun stood by the window, looking out at the stars. "Tomorrow, we show them what humans can really do." The second day of negotiations began differently. When the human delegation entered the meeting chamber, they brought several pieces of equipment. Other aliens watched curiously as Yuna set up what looked like a translation device, but much more. complex than the standard ones used on the station. "What is the purpose of this equipment?" asked the Vith leader through rapid clicks. Yuna finished her setup and turned to face the assembled aliens. "Communication is more than just words," she said. "To truly understand each other, we need to communicate the way each species prefers." She approached the Vith delegation first. Instead of using the standard translators, she began clicking with her own mouth. But these weren't random sounds. The clicks formed complex patterns that made the Vith representatives lean forward with interest. "Your species developed on a world with many predators," Yuna clicked in perfect Vith language. "Your ancestors survived by working together in groups. That's why your government is based on consensus. You make decisions by clicking until everyone agrees." The Vith delegates looked at each other in amazement. One of them clicked back. "How do you know this? This information is not in our official communications with other species." "We observed." "We listened. We learned," replied Yuna, still clicking in their language. She moved to the gel section. The crystal beings had formed a complex geometric pattern that resonated with musical tones. Yuna pulled out a device that could create similar tones. She began to sing to them in their harmonic language. "Your species thinks in mathematical patterns," she sang. "Every decision is calculated for maximum efficiency. You find chaos frightening because it cannot be predicted or controlled." The gel crystals began to glow brighter. Their song became more complex, showing excitement or agitation. "This knowledge, how do you possess it?" They harmonized. "We pay attention," Yuna sang back. Next, she approached the Moore delegation. These gas cloud beings communicated through chemical signals. Yuna had brought a device that could produce and detect different chemical compounds. As she worked with the device, specific scents filled the air around the Moore section. "Your species is actually one organism," she said through chemical signals. "Each individual Moore is like a finger on a hand. You share thoughts and feelings across vast distances. That's why you're afraid of being alone or cut off from others." The Moore clouds swirled more rapidly. Their chemical response was sharp and surprised. "Impossible. This is secret knowledge, known only to our highest leaders. Not secret to those who watch and learn," Yuna replied through scent. Day stood up from the human table. "My colleague has demonstrated something important. During 3 years of war, we weren't just fighting, we were studying." He activated a holographic display that showed detailed information about each alien species. The display was incredibly detailed, showing not just military capabilities but cultural practices, social structures, and psychological patterns. "The Vith attack in coordinated waves because your ancestors hunted in packs," Day explained. "Your battle formations mirror your ancient hunting patterns." The Vith delegates clicked nervously among themselves. "The Gel prefer defensive strategies because your species values preservation over risk," Day continued. "You calculate the odds of success before every action." The crystal beings dimmed slightly, showing unease. "The more fight as one unified force, because you literally are one unified organism spread across many bodies. When more warriors die, the rest feel their pain." The gas clouds contracted, pulling closer together. Day moved through each species in turn, describing their military tactics and explaining exactly why they fought the way they did. Every explanation was based on deep cultural and biological understanding. "This is why you fear human negotiators," said Tay, speaking for the first time that day. "In war, you try to kill your enemy, but humans try to understand their enemy." Representative from the purple-skinned Kek species stood up. "This is surveillance, spying. It violates the rules of honorable warfare." Hyun smiled calmly. "Is it spying to notice that your species builds cities in perfect circles because you evolved from creatures that lived in burrows? Is it spying to observe that you always negotiate in groups of 3 because your ancient tribal structure was based on 3-member family units?" The Kek's representative sat down without responding. An aquatic gnoll spoke from their water tank. You claim to understand us, but understanding can be used for manipulation. It can, agreed Yuna, but it can also be used for cooperation. When you understand why someone acts a certain way, you can work with them instead of against them. She activated another display. This one showed proposed trade agreements, cultural exchange programs, and cooperation treaties. Each proposal was specifically designed to appeal to the psychological and cultural preferences of different species. For the Vith, we propose joint exploration missions, Yuna explained. Your species loves to discover new things together. These missions would satisfy that need while building trust between our peoples. For the Gel, we suggest technology sharing agreements. Your species values efficiency and mathematical precision. Our technologies could be improved by your mathematical minds while your crystals could enhance our computers. For the More, we offer communication networks that could connect your entire species across the galaxy. No more would ever have to feel alone again. Each proposal was tailored perfectly to what each species wanted most. The aliens listened with growing amazement and concern. "How long have you been planning this?" asked the Vith leader. "Since the day the war started," replied Hyun. "Every battle taught us something new about your species. Every diplomatic contact revealed more about how you think." Day brought up a new display showing battle statistics. Humans won 63% of our encounters, but we could have won much more if we had wanted to. "What do you mean?" demanded a reptilian delegate from the Sarn species. "We fought defensively because offense would have ended the war too quickly," Day explained. "We needed time to study all of you properly." The chamber erupted in sounds of surprise and anger. Clicking, singing, chemical releases, and various alien languages filled the air as representatives talked among themselves. "You mean you prolonged the war intentionally?" The question came from multiple species at once. "We prolonged the learning period," corrected Hyun. "The war was a classroom. You were the teachers, though you didn't know it." A tall, thin alien from the Yek species stood up. "This is monstrous. You allowed soldiers to die just to study us?" Tae answered this time. "Every war has casualties, but this war could have had many more. By fighting defensively and studying your tactics, we minimized deaths on both sides." She brought up casualty statistics that showed human losses were surprisingly low, but more importantly, alien losses were also lower than they should have been for a war of this scale. "You held back," realized the Gel leader, their crystals singing in a minor key. "We fought smart, not hard," confirmed Day. Yuna stepped forward again. "Now we know each of your species better than you know yourselves. We know what motivates you, what frightens you, what you need to be happy and successful. And what do you plan to do with this knowledge?" asked the More representative through chemical signals that smelled of fear. Hyun stood up and looked around the chamber. "We plan to use it to build a peace that actually works. Not a peace based on fear or domination, but one based on understanding and mutual benefit." "But such knowledge makes you incredibly dangerous," observed the Kex delegate. "You could manipulate any of our species easily?" "Yes," admitted Hyun simply. "We could." The admission sent a chill through the chamber. Every alien representative suddenly understood why they had felt uncomfortable since the negotiations began. The humans weren't just negotiating from a position of military strength, they were negotiating from a position of psychological dominance. "So, what happens now?" asked the Null representative. Yuna smiled. "Now we show you what real cooperation looks like. Tomorrow, we'll present our complete proposal. You'll see that understanding doesn't have to mean control. It can mean partnership." "And if we refuse?" asked the Vith leader. Day's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered in his eyes. "You won't refuse, because by tomorrow, you'll understand that what we're offering is better than anything you could achieve on your own." As the session ended, the alien delegates left the chamber in unusual silence. Their normal communication sounds were muted and subdued. Back in their quarters, the human team reviewed the day's progress. "They're scared," observed Tay. "Good," replied Day. "Scared. People make rational decisions." Yuna was already preparing materials for the next day. They're beginning to understand what they're really dealing with. We're not just another species they can fight or trade with. We're something new. Hyun stood by the window again, watching the stars. "Tomorrow, we make our offer. After that, everything changes." "For them or for us?" asked Tay. "For everyone," Hyun replied quietly. The third day arrived with tension thick in the air of the space station. The alien delegates entered the meeting chamber more carefully than before, as if they expected a trap. Many brought additional advisors and recording devices. The humans noticed everything, but said nothing. Ambassador Hyun stood at the center of the chamber with a single tablet in his hands. Behind him, his three colleagues sat quietly, watching the assembled alien representatives with calm, patient expressions. "Yesterday, we demonstrated our understanding of your species," Hyun began. "Today, we present our proposal for peace. But this is not a peace treaty as you understand them." He activated a large holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. The image showed the galaxy with all inhabited systems marked in different colors for each species. "Traditional peace treaties are about division," Hyun continued. "This territory for that species, these resources for those people, these trade routes for others. But division creates weakness." The hologram changed to show connection lines between systems, trade routes, communication networks, and travel. Paths lit up between different species' territories. "We propose integration, not division." The Vith leader clicked rapidly. "What does that mean exactly?" Tay stood up and approached the display. "It means we stop thinking about 12 separate species and start thinking about one galactic civilization." She manipulated the hologram to show specific examples. "The Vith are excellent explorers and scouts. The Gel are mathematical geniuses. The Moor have perfect communication networks. Each species has unique strengths. But traditionally, each species keeps these strengths for themselves," added Yuna. "This creates duplication of effort and wasted potential." The hologram shifted to show a new model. Instead of separate territories and resources, it showed integrated systems where different species work together based on their natural abilities. "Humans propose a cooperation network," explained Day. "Not conquest, not submission, but partnership." Gel formation sang in questioning tones. "What would humans contribute to such an arrangement? What are your unique strengths?" Hyun smiled. "Coordination, integration, understanding how to make different types of thinking work together effectively." He gestured to his team. "In 3 years of war, 4 humans learned enough about 12 species to predict your behaviors and design solutions for your problems. Imagine what we could accomplish working together instead of fighting." The Moor representative released chemicals that smelled skeptical. "This sounds too good to be true. What do humans really want?" "Growth," answered Tay simply. "Humans grow stronger when surrounded by other strong species. We don't want to rule over weak subjects. We want to cooperate with powerful partners." She brought up economic projections on the hologram. "Look at these numbers. If all species share resources and knowledge efficiently, everyone benefits more than they would from controlling territory alone." The projections were impressive. Every species would see significant improvements in technology, resources, and quality of life compared to their current situation. "But surely there must be a price," said the purple-skinned Kex representative. "Humans cannot benefit equally with everyone else while also providing coordination services." "You're right," agreed Hyun. "There is a price. But it's not what you think." The hologram changed to show detailed organizational charts. Humans would take responsibility for managing the complexity of galactic civilization, We would handle communication between species, resolve conflicts, and coordinate large-scale projects. In other words, said the aquatic null delegate, humans would be in charge. No, replied Una firmly. Humans would be the nervous system. Each species would remain autonomous within their own territories and cultures. But when cooperation is needed, we would facilitate it. She demonstrated with a smaller hologram showing how the system would work. If the Vith discover a new planet suitable for crystal growth, they contact the Human Coordination Network. We facilitate communication with the gel. The three species negotiate directly, but humans help them understand each other's perspectives. What if species disagree? Asked a tall Yex representative. Day answered this question. Then humans help find solutions that work for everyone, not by forcing decisions, but by understanding what each species really needs and finding creative compromises. He showed examples of past conflicts between alien species and how they could have been resolved more effectively with human mediation. This still sounds like human control with extra steps, observed the Vith leader. Hyun nodded. It could be if humans were interested in control, but we're not. Then what are you interested in? Demanded the more representative. Challenge, replied Hyun. Humans are happiest when solving complex problems. Managing a galactic civilization made up of 12 different species would be the ultimate challenge. Tay brought up more detailed proposals. Each species would contribute to shared projects based on their strengths. Vith exploration would benefit everyone. Gel calculations would improve all technologies. More communication networks would connect the galaxy. And human coordination would make it all possible, added Una. The chamber fell silent as alien delegates considered the proposal. The holographic displays continued showing projected benefits, organizational structures, and examples of successful cooperation. Finally, the Kex representative spoke. What guarantees do we have that humans won't abuse this coordination role? What guarantees do you need? Asked Hyun in return. Legal frameworks, oversight committees, checks on human authority, listed the Kex delegate. Day laughed. You still don't understand. We don't want authority. Authority is a burden. We want partnership. Besides, added Una, you've seen what happens when humans really want control. We studied you for 3 years without you knowing it. If we wanted to dominate you, would we be offering cooperation? This comment caused uncomfortable shifting among the alien delegates. They were reminded again of how thoroughly humans had outmaneuvered them. So our choice is cooperation or manipulation? Asked the Gel formation, their crystal song carrying bitter harmonics. Your choice is cooperation or separation, corrected Hyun. We're offering to work together. If you prefer to remain separate, we'll respect that decision. But you'll also be disappointed, observed Tay, because humans thrive on complexity and challenge. A galaxy full of separate, isolated species is boring. The Sarn representative, who had been quiet until now, finally spoke. What happens to species that choose not to join this cooperation network? Nothing, replied Hyun. They continue as they are, but they miss out on the benefits of shared knowledge and resources. They become irrelevant, added Day bluntly. Not irrelevant, corrected Una. Just limited, like trying to solve galactic-scale problems with only one species' perspective. A small alien from the insectoid tick species raised a question. How do we know this cooperation will actually benefit everyone equally? Tay smiled and brought up detailed economic models. Because humans are very good at math, too. We've calculated the optimal resource distribution for maximum benefit to all species. The models were incredibly sophisticated, taking into account each species' biological needs, cultural preferences, and technological capabilities. The projected outcomes showed remarkable improvements for everyone. These calculations, sang the Gel leader slowly, They are more complex than anything our species has produced. That's because you've been calculating for one species, explained Tay. We calculated for 13 species working together. 13, clicked the Vith leader. There are only 12 species in the Galactic Council. 12 plus humans, replied Hyun. We included ourselves in the calculations. This simple statement carried enormous implications. The humans weren't proposing to rule over the other species. They were proposing to become part of a larger civilization. But humans would still have special status as coordinators, pointed out the more representative. Special responsibility, corrected Day. When something goes wrong with galactic cooperation, humans get blamed. When species can't reach agreement, humans have to find solutions. When new challenges arise, humans have to figure out how to address them. It sounds like a difficult job, observed the Null delegate. The best jobs usually are, replied Hyun. Yuna stepped forward again. We've shown you our understanding of your species. We've demonstrated our ability to predict and influence your behaviors. We've presented a proposal that benefits everyone. She paused and looked around the chamber. Now we need to know, do you want to build a galactic civilization together, or do you prefer to remain separate species competing against each other? Alien delegates looked at each other uncertainly. Some began quiet conversations in their own languages. Others seemed to be thinking deeply about the proposal. This is a fundamental change in how galactic society operates, said the Kex representative finally. Yes, agreed Hyun. Change is what humans do best. And if we agree to this cooperation network, asked the Vith leader, what happens to the war? What war? Replied Day with a slight smile. Partners don't fight wars against each other. The gel formation sang in complex harmonies that seemed to indicate deep thought. Finally, they harmonized. We require time to consider this proposal. Of course, said Hyun. Take all the time you need. The fourth day began differently. Instead of a large group meeting, Sua requested individual sessions with each alien delegation. Sua was the team's psychologist, and she had been quiet during the previous 3 days, observing and taking notes. Now it was her turn to work. I'd like to meet with each species separately, she announced to the chamber, to better understand your individual concerns about the cooperation proposal. The alien delegates looked uncomfortable with this request. Group negotiations felt safer than individual meetings, but refusing would seem unreasonable, so they agreed. Sua started with the Vith delegation. She met them in a smaller chamber designed for their insectoid physiology. The room had multiple levels and climbing surfaces that made the Vith feel more comfortable. Thank you for meeting with me, Sua said, clicking softly in their language. Her pronunciation was even better than Yuna's had been. The lead Vith delegate clicked nervously. What is the purpose of this individual meeting? Understanding, replied Sua simply. Your species has concerns that might be different from others. I want to hear them. She settled into a chair that allowed her to be at the same height as the Vith delegates. This small gesture put them more at ease. Our main concern is autonomy, clicked the Vith leader. We have always been independent explorers. We fear losing our freedom to make our own decisions. Sua nodded thoughtfully. Freedom is very important to your species. But tell me, when was the last time your species made a truly independent decision? The question surprised them. They clicked among themselves in rapid consultation before answering. What do you mean? Your exploration missions require approval. From the Galactic Council, Sua explained gently. Your trade agreements must follow Council regulations. Your military actions need coordination with other species. You haven't been truly independent for decades. The Vith delegates clicked more rapidly, showing agitation. But that's different. Those are voluntary cooperations. Are they? Asked Sua. What happens if your species ignores Council decisions? The uncomfortable silence that followed was answer enough. The Vith knew they were dependent on the council structure, even if they didn't like to admit it. The cooperation networks we're proposing would actually give you more freedom, Sua continued. Instead of following council bureaucracy, you'd work directly with species that need your exploration skills. She showed them detailed examples of how Vith exploration missions could work under the new system. The examples were carefully chosen to appeal to their desire for adventure and discovery. "You've studied our psychological profiles," observed one of the Vith delegates. "Of course," replied Sua, "just as you've tried to study ours. The difference is that we're better at it." After an hour with the Vith, Sua moved to meet with the Gel delegation. Their chamber was filled with mathematical equations displayed in light patterns. The crystal beings found comfort in numerical relationships. "Welcome," harmonized the Gel leader. "We appreciate this opportunity for detailed discussion." Sua began humming in harmonic patterns that matched Gel communication. "I understand your species values precision and predictability. The cooperation proposal must seem chaotic to you." "It does," admitted the Gel formation. "Too many variables, too many unpredictable factors." "But what if I told you that human psychology is actually very predictable?" Sua hummed back. "We might seem chaotic, but we follow patterns just like everyone else." She displayed mathematical models of human behavior that were incredibly detailed. The models showed how humans made decisions, formed groups, and responded to different situations. "These equations," sang the Gel in amazement. "They're more complex than our models of crystalline growth." "Human behavior is complex," agreed Sua, "but it's still mathematical, and if you understand the math, you can predict the outcomes." She showed them how the cooperation network would function as a mathematical system with predictable inputs and outputs. For the Gel, who feared chaos, this was deeply reassuring. "You're offering us control through understanding," harmonized one of the Gel representatives. "I'm offering you partnership with a species that thinks mathematically about cooperation," corrected Sua. "Humans don't eliminate chaos. We organize it." Next, Sua met with the Moore delegation in a chamber filled with chemical sensors and gas mixing equipment. The cloud-like being seemed nervous as she approached. "We know what you're doing." Their chemical signals conveyed fear and suspicion. "You're trying to understand our weaknesses." "I'm trying to understand your fears," replied Sua through her own chemical signals. "Because fear is what's preventing you from seeing the opportunities." The Moore delegates released stress chemicals that made the air smell sharp and acidic. "Humans are dangerous. You understand us too well." "Understanding doesn't have to be dangerous," Sua responded with calming chemical patterns. "It can be comforting. For instance, I know that your species' greatest fear is isolation, being cut off from the collective consciousness that connects all more." The clouds swirled more rapidly. "How do you know this?" "Because every action your species takes is designed to maintain connection," Sua explained. "Your military formations keep units in communication range. Your cities are built around communication centers. Your trade agreements always include communication protocols." She released specific chemicals that created a scent of understanding and empathy. The cooperation network would guarantee that no more ever has to face isolation again. Permanent, galaxy-wide communication networks maintained by all species working together. The Moore clouds began to glow slightly, indicating interest and hope. Such networks would require enormous resources. Resources that 13 species working together could easily provide, Sua pointed out. Resources that individual species competing against each other could never afford. Her individual meetings continued throughout the day. With each species, she demonstrated an understanding of their deepest fears and most important needs. But more than that, she showed how human psychology worked and why humans could be trusted. To the aggressive Sarn, she explained that humans channeled aggression into problem-solving rather than dominance. To the cautious Nul, she demonstrated that human risk-taking was calculated, not reckless. To the proud Kex, she showed that humans respected strength and competence above all else. But the most important meeting was with the Yex delegation. The tall, thin aliens were known for their analytical minds and strategic thinking. They were the species most likely to see through human psychological manipulation. "You're trying to manipulate us," the Yex leader stated directly. "Yes," agreed Sua without hesitation. "Just as you're trying to manipulate me," this honesty seemed to surprise them. "We are?" "You chose to wear formal diplomatic robes instead of casual clothing to make yourselves seem more important," Sua observed. "You arranged your seating to create a subtle dominance display. You're speaking in your most formal dialect to create emotional distance." The Yex delegates looked at each other uncomfortably. Every detail Sua mentioned was accurate. All intelligent. "Species use psychological influence," Sua continued. "The question is whether we use it against each other or with each other." "Explain the difference," requested the Yex leader. "Against each other means trying to win by making others lose," Sua explained. "With each other means trying to win by helping others win too." She showed them psychological profiles of human leaders throughout history. Humans have tried the against approach many times. It never works for long. We've learned that the with approach is more successful. "But it requires trusting other species," observed a Yex delegate. "No," corrected Sua. "It requires understanding other species well enough that trust becomes irrelevant." She displayed detailed behavioral predictions for all 12 alien species. The predictions were so accurate they were almost frightening. "If we understand you this well," Sua said, "do we need to trust you? We can predict what you'll do before you do it." "That's terrifying," admitted the Yex leader. "Only if you're planning to do something harmful," replied Sua. "If you're planning to cooperate, it's helpful." As the individual meetings concluded, Sua had accomplished something remarkable. She had taken each species' fears about human manipulation and turned them into reasons why human cooperation would work. The Vith learned that humans understood their need for freedom and would protect it. The Gel discovered that humans thought mathematically about cooperation. The Moor realized that humans could guarantee their connection needs. Each species left their individual meeting with a clearer understanding of human psychology and their own psychology. More importantly, they began to see how the cooperation network would address their specific concerns. That evening, the human team gathered to review the day's progress. "How did it go?" asked Hyun. "Better than expected," replied Sua. "They're starting to understand that we're not trying to trick them. We're trying to help them see clearly." "And what do they see?" asked Day. "That fighting humans is pointless," Sua answered. "Not because we're stronger militarily, but because we understand them better than they understand themselves." Tay looked up from her economic models. "The individual meetings were smart. Now they can't claim they weren't given a chance to express their concerns." "More than that," added Sua. "Now they understand that their concerns were predictable." The fifth day of negotiations brought an unusual request from the human delegation. Day stood before the assembled alien representatives with what appeared to be complete confidence. "We would like to demonstrate something," he announced. "With your permission, we'd like to use the station's holographic systems for a simulation." The alien delegates exchanged glances. After 4 days of surprising revelations, they were wary of any human demonstration. "What kind of simulation?" asked the Vith leader cautiously. "A recreation of our war," replied Day simply, "but shown from your perspectives instead of ours." This request caused immediate discussion among the alien representatives. They spoke in their various languages, creating a cacophony of clicks, songs, and chemical releases. The gel formation finally harmonized a response. "For what purpose would you show us our own war?" "To help you understand what really happened," answered Day, and what could have happened instead. After more discussion, the aliens agreed to the demonstration. The chamber's lights dimmed and massive holographic projectors activated. The entire room became filled with a three-dimensional recreation of space. "This is the Kepler system," Day explained as stars and planets appeared around them. "The first major battle between human and alien forces. From your records, this was a significant victory for the Galactic Council." The hologram showed the battle exactly as it had happened 3 years ago. Alien ships moved in coordinated formations, attacking human positions with overwhelming force. Human ships retreated, appearing to flee in disorder. "Your tactical analysis was correct," Day continued. "You had superior numbers, better coordination, and strategic advantage. The humans appeared to be losing badly. The alien delegates watched their historical victory with satisfaction. It was one of their most successful early battles against humanity. But now," said Day, "let me show you what we were really doing." The hologram rewound and played again. But this time, additional information appeared. Human ship movements were highlighted with trajectory lines and timing markers. Communication intercepts showed human commanders giving very specific orders. "We weren't retreating randomly," Day explained. "We were moving in patterns designed to test your response times, coordination methods, and decision-making processes." The hologram showed how human ships had deliberately exposed themselves to alien fire in specific ways. Each exposure was calculated to provoke particular responses from different alien species. "When the Vith attacked from the left, we measured how long it took them to coordinate with Zell mathematical calculations. When the Moor provided communication support, we analyzed their network protocols. When the Keks committed their reserves, we studied their risk assessment methods." The alien delegates watched in growing amazement as the true nature of the battle became clear. The humans hadn't been fighting to win. They had been fighting to learn. Every human ship that was damaged or destroyed provided valuable information. Day continued. "We learned your weapon capabilities, your tactical preferences, and your psychological patterns." The Sarn representative spoke angrily. "You sacrificed your own people just to study us?" "We sacrificed ships and equipment," corrected Day. "Human casualties were minimal because we knew exactly when to retreat. But yes, we accepted losses in exchange for knowledge." The hologram shifted to show other battles from the war. In each case, the same pattern was visible. Humans would engage alien forces, provoke specific responses, gather data, and retreat before taking serious casualties. "This is monstrous," declared the Newell representative. "You turned war into a research project." "War has always been a learning experience," replied Day calmly. "The difference is that humans approach learning systematically." Una stepped forward and added her analysis to the demonstration. "Each battle taught us something new about interspecies cooperation. We learned how your different psychologies worked together and where the weaknesses were." The hologram showed detailed breakdowns of alien coordination patterns. The Vith provided fast scouting information, but they sometimes acted impulsively. The Gel offered precise calculations, but they were slow to adapt when situations changed rapidly. The Moor maintained excellent communication, but they became confused when networks were disrupted. "You mapped our entire command structure," realized the Kex leader. "We mapped your entire civilization," corrected Sua. "Military structure is just one part of how a species thinks and acts." The demonstration continued with increasingly disturbing revelations. Humans had not only studied alien military tactics, but had also analyzed their supply chains, communication networks, political structures, and cultural weaknesses. "But this is impossible," sang the Gel leader. "Such analysis would require enormous computational resources and years of careful observation." Tay smiled and activated another part of the hologram. "It required exactly 3 years, 2 months, and 16 days. We started the moment first contact was made." The hologram showed a timeline of human learning throughout the war. The amount of information gathered was staggering. personnel files on alien commanders, psychological profiles of political leaders, economic analyses of each species' resource needs, and cultural studies of their social structures. We know the name of every alien commander who fought against us, Day said quietly. We know their family backgrounds, their personal fears, their career ambitions, and their decision-making patterns. That's impossible, protested the Moore representative. Such information is classified at the highest levels. Not anymore, replied Day. He activated a smaller hologram that displayed detailed personal information about the Moore delegate himself. Name, family history, psychological profile, and even his favorite foods. The chamber fell silent as each alien representative realized that humans probably had similar files on all of them. Now, said Day, let me show you what we could have done with this information. The main hologram shifted to show alternative versions of key battles, but in these versions, humans fought aggressively instead of defensively. The first alternative battle was devastating. Human forces used precise psychological manipulation to turn alien species against each other. Vith impulsiveness was exploited to create premature attacks. Zell calculations were overwhelmed with false data. More communication networks were hijacked and corrupted. This battle would have ended in 47 minutes, Day explained, as alien forces crumbled in the simulation. Total alien casualties would have been approximately 85%. The alien delegates watched in horror as their forces were systematically destroyed by humans who knew exactly how to exploit every weakness. The second major engagement could have been ended in 23 minutes, Day continued as the hologram showed another alternative battle. We would have used your own coordination protocols against you. Battle after battle played out in the hologram. In every case, humans achieved total victory in minimal time with devastating effectiveness. The alien delegates realized they had never been fighting a real war. They had been participating in a human research project. Why didn't you fight this way? Asked the Vith leader in a subdued voice. Because we didn't want to destroy you, replied Hyun, speaking for the first time that day. We wanted to understand you. But you could have ended the war at any time, observed the Yek's representative. Yes, agreed Day, but ending the war quickly would have taught us less about your species. We needed time for comprehensive analysis. The Kek's delegate stood up angrily. So the entire war was meaningless? Our soldiers died for nothing? Your soldiers died because your leaders chose to fight instead of negotiate, corrected Sua. We offered peaceful contact from the beginning. You chose war. But we didn't know what we were choosing to fight, protested the gel formation. We thought we were fighting another species like ourselves. You were fighting a species that had spent centuries learning how to understand other types of thinking, explained Yuna. Humans have had practice with this. She brought up historical examples of human behavior. On our own planet, humans had to learn to cooperate with many different types of human cultures and psychology. We've been studying ourselves for thousands of years. When we encountered alien species, added Tay, we simply applied the same techniques we use to understand different human groups. The demonstration reached its climax when Day showed what would happen if humans chose to use their knowledge for conquest instead of cooperation. If we wanted to rule the galaxy, he said quietly, we would do it like this. The hologram showed a terrifying scenario. Using their complete understanding of alien psychology, humans systematically turned each species against the others, not through force, but through manipulation so subtle that the aliens would believe their conflicts were natural and inevitable. Species-specific propaganda would create suspicion and fear. Day explained, as the simulation showed carefully crafted messages being sent to different worlds. Economic pressure would be applied at precise psychological pressure points. Political leaders would receive advice that seemed helpful but actually served human interests. The simulation showed the Galactic Council collapsing into mistrust, and conflict while humans provided aid and support to all sides. Within months, every alien species would be dependent on human assistance and grateful for human guidance. The sixth day began with a changed atmosphere in the meeting chamber. The alien delegates arrived looking tired and worried. Many had spent the night in emergency consultations with their home governments. Some brought new advisors and security personnel. Ambassador Hyun noticed the changes but said nothing as he took his seat. His three colleagues appeared as calm as always, but there was a subtle tension in the air that everyone could feel. "We have been in communication with our governments," announced the Vith leader without preliminary greetings. "Your demonstration yesterday has caused considerable concern." "I imagine it has," replied Hyun simply. The gel formation sang in harmonics that conveyed deep disturbance. "Our mathematical analysis of the scenarios you presented suggests that resistance to human expansion would be futile." "That analysis is correct," confirmed Tae. A representative from the aquatic Nul species spoke from their water tank. "Our question is simple. What do humans really want from the galaxy?" Hyun stood up and walked to the center of the chamber. "That's an excellent question. And today, we're going to give you the complete answer." He gestured to Yuna, who activated a new holographic display. But this one was different from previous presentations. Instead of showing alien worlds and civilizations, it showed human society in detail. "To understand what humans want," Hyun began, "you need to understand what humans are." The hologram displayed Earth's history but focused on human psychological development rather than technological advancement. It showed how humans had evolved from tribal societies to global civilization. "Humans are natural coordinators," explained Yuna, "but not because we're peaceful or cooperative by nature, because we're very good at managing complexity and conflict." The hologram showed examples throughout human history. Humans creating trade networks between hostile tribes. Humans mediating disputes between incompatible cultures. Humans finding ways to make enemies work together for mutual benefit. Other species on Earth specialized in different survival strategies, continued Yuna. Some became faster, some became stronger, some became better camouflaged. Humans became better at understanding and managing other types of thinking. "Even other human thinking?" asked the Kex representative. "Especially other human thinking," replied Sua. "Humans are the most psychologically diverse species on our planet. We had to learn to coordinate many different types of human minds before we could coordinate with alien minds." The hologram shifted to show human cities and societies. The complexity was staggering. Millions of humans with different languages, cultures, beliefs, and goals, all working together in intricate patterns. "This is what humans do naturally," said Day. "We take chaos and organize it. We take conflict and turn it into cooperation. We take incompatible differences and make them into complementary strengths. But surely this coordination requires some form of central control," observed the Yex representative. "No," replied Hyun. "It requires understanding. When you truly understand why people act the way they do, you can predict their actions and plan accordingly." He gestured to the hologram, which now showed the human delegation's preparation for these negotiations. The amount of research and analysis was enormous. "We spent 3 years studying your species not because we wanted to conquer you," Hyun explained. "We studied you because that's what humans do when we encounter something new and complex." "You studied us like specimens," accused the Sarn representative. "We studied you like potential partners," corrected Yuna. "There's an important difference." She showed detailed analyses of each alien species, but the focus was on strengths and capabilities rather than weaknesses and vulnerabilities. "Look at these profiles," Yuna continued. "We didn't just identify your fears and limitations. We mapped your unique abilities and potential contributions. The profiles were impressive. Each alien species was analyzed not just for military capabilities, but for cultural achievements, technological innovations, and social strengths. The Vith are natural explorers with courage and adaptability that surpasses any other species, Yuna explained. The Gel can perform mathematical calculations that would take our best computers weeks to complete. The Moor have communication capabilities that could connect consciousness across galactic distances. She continued through each species, highlighting remarkable abilities and potentials that even the aliens themselves might not have fully recognized. This is what humans saw when we looked at the galaxy, said Hyun. Not enemies to defeat, but partners with incredible capabilities. Then why did you demonstrate your ability to destroy us yesterday? Demanded the Moor representative through sharp chemical signals. Day answered this question. Because understanding works both ways. For partnership to succeed, you need to understand humans as clearly as we understand you. And what should we understand about humans? Asked the Vith leader. That we're very dangerous when threatened, replied Day simply, but even more dangerous when bored. This statement confused several alien delegates. The Gel formation sang questioning harmonics. Explain this concept of dangerous boredom. Sua stepped forward to provide the explanation. Humans require mental stimulation and challenge. When we don't have interesting problems to solve, we create them. She showed historical examples from Earth. Humans starting conflicts, competitions, and projects simply because they needed something complex to work on. A galaxy full of separate, isolated species would be boring for humans, Sua explained. We would eventually create challenges and conflicts just to have something interesting to manage. But a galaxy full of species working together in complex cooperation networks, added Tay, would provide endless, interesting challenges. The alien delegates began to understand the true situation. Humans weren't offering cooperation out of kindness or moral principles. They were offering it because it would be more entertaining than conquest. So our choice is to be your entertainment or your victims, asked the Kex representative. Your choice is to be our partners or to be irrelevant, corrected Hyun. Entertainment suggests that we don't care about your welfare. Partnership means your success is important to our success. Yuna brought up new projections showing long-term galactic development under human coordination. The models were incredibly sophisticated and showed benefits for all species over centuries of cooperation. These projections assume human coordination continues indefinitely, observed the Yex leader. Because it would, replied Tay. Managing galactic civilization would be a permanent challenge that could keep humans interested for millennia. And if humans ever became bored with coordination, asked the Null representative, then we would find new challenges, answered Day, probably involving exploration beyond this galaxy. The implications were becoming clear. Humans weren't just offering a peace treaty or even a permanent alliance. They were proposing to fundamentally restructure galactic civilization around human psychological needs. This is colonization, declared the Sarn representative. Not military colonization, but psychological colonization. No, disagreed Sua. Colonization implies taking something away from you. We're offering to give you something. Access to capabilities you could never develop alone. She demonstrated with specific examples. Vith exploration combined with gel mathematics could map the galaxy in ways no single species could achieve. More communication networks enhanced by human coordination protocols could create true galactic consciousness. These are impressive possibilities, admitted the gel formation. But they require trusting human intentions. They require understanding human nature, corrected Hyun. And today, we've given you the information you need for that understanding. He activated a final holographic display that showed human psychology in stark clinical detail. Unlike the earlier presentations about alien psychology, this one revealed human motivations, fears, and limitations with brutal honesty. Humans are motivated by complexity and challenge, Hyun explained. We fear boredom and stagnation. We're limited by our need for constant mental stimulation. This means we're predictable, added Day. You can anticipate human behavior by understanding what would be most interesting for us in any given situation. Galactic cooperation is interesting, said Tay. Galactic domination is boring after the first few decades. The alien delegates studied the human psychological profiles with growing comprehension. They were seeing humans as clearly as humans saw them. You're offering us mutual vulnerability, realized the Moore representative. You understand us, but now we understand you too. Exactly, confirmed Sua. True partnership requires mutual understanding, not one-sided advantage. The Vith leader clicked thoughtfully. If humans become bored with galactic coordination, you would simply leave to find new challenges? Probably, agreed Hyun, but that wouldn't happen for centuries, if ever. The galaxy is very complex. And during those centuries, all species would benefit from cooperation, added Yuna. The chamber fell quiet as alien delegates processed this information. They were being offered a partnership with a species that was both incredibly capable and reasonably predictable. What guarantees do we have that humans will keep their agreements? Asked the Kex representative. The same guarantee you have with any intelligent species, replied Hyun. Our agreements benefit us, so we have no reason to break them. The seventh day arrived with a sense of finality that everyone could feel. The alien delegates entered the meeting chamber with the weight of galactic history on their shoulders. Each species had spent the night in urgent communication with their home governments, military leaders, and cultural advisors. Ambassador Hyun surveyed the assembled representatives. Their body language told him everything he needed to know about their decisions, but the formal process still had to be completed. This is our final day of negotiations, Hyun announced. Today you'll choose the future of galactic civilization. Tay stepped forward with a tablet containing the formal cooperation agreement. The document was surprisingly simple for something that would reshape an entire galaxy. The Galactic Cooperation Network, she began, is built on three basic principles. First, voluntary participation. No species is forced to join or remain in the network. Second, continued Sua, mutual benefit. Every species contributes according to their strengths and receives benefits according to their needs. Third, concluded Day, human coordination. Humans facilitate communication, mediate disputes, and manage the complexity of interspecies. Cooperation. Yuna activated a holographic display showing the proposed network structure. It was elegant in its simplicity, but sophisticated in its implementation. Each species maintains complete autonomy within their own territories, she explained. But when cooperation is needed, all communication flows through human coordination centers. The Vith leader clicked nervously. What if our species chooses not to participate? Then you continue as you are, replied Hyun. Independent, isolated, and limited to your own resources and capabilities. But you'll also miss out on everything the network provides, added Tay. Shared technology, coordinated exploration, efficient resource distribution, and protection against external threats. The gel formation sang in calculating harmonics. External threats? What external threats? Day smiled grimly. The galaxy is large. There are species out there that haven't been contacted yet. Some of them might not be as interested in cooperation as humans are. This was a subtle but effective reminder. The aliens had seen human capabilities. The prospect of facing unknown species without human allies was not appealing. May we discuss the terms among ourselves? Asked the Kex representative. Of course, replied Hyun. But I should mention that this offer has a time limit. This statement caused immediate tension in the chamber. Several alien delegates began clicking, singing, or releasing stress chemicals. What kind of time limit? Demanded the Sarn representative. Humans have other options if this negotiation fails, explained Sua calmly. We could approach species individually rather than through the Galactic Council. We could focus on establishing cooperation networks in other parts of the galaxy. Or we could simply leave and find more interesting challenges elsewhere, added Day. The implications were clear. This was the aliens' best opportunity to partner with humans. If they rejected it, humans would find other partners or other projects. How long do we have to decide? Asked the Null representative. The rest of today, replied Tay. We leave tomorrow morning, regardless of your decision. The alien delegates looked at each other with growing urgency. 6 days of negotiations had led to this moment, and they had less than a day to make the most important decision in galactic history. We need private consultation time, announced the Yex leader. Use the secondary chambers, suggested Hyun. We'll wait here. As the alien delegates filed out to their private meetings, the human team remained in the main chamber. They appeared relaxed, but there was an underlying tension that betrayed their true feelings about the outcome. Think they'll take the deal? Asked Tay quietly. They have to, replied Day. The alternatives are too risky. The Vith are the most likely to refuse, observed Sua. They value independence above everything else. The Vith are also the most likely to benefit from cooperation, countered Yuna. Enhanced exploration capabilities would appeal to them enormously. While the humans waited, the alien species were engaged in intense discussions in their private chambers. Each species was weighing the benefits and risks of joining the human cooperation network. In the Vith chamber, the debate was heated. This is surrender disguised as partnership, clicked one delegate angrily. No, replied the leader. This is evolution. We can remain isolated and weak or join the network and become stronger. But under human control, protested another Vith. Under human coordination, corrected the leader. There's a difference. They showed us their psychological profiles. We know what motivates them. They want interesting challenges, not control, for its own sake. In the gel chamber, the discussion was more mathematical. The probability calculations are clear, harmonized one crystal formation. Cooperation provides superior outcomes to isolation. But the variables are difficult to predict, sang another. Human psychology is complex, which is why they're good at coordination, replied the lead formation. Complexity doesn't intimidate them. The more we're having their discussion through chemical signals that filled their chamber with complex sense. The communication networks alone justify participation, one cloud signaled. But can we trust humans not to abuse their coordination role? Questioned another. We can predict their behavior, replied the leader. That's better than trust. Similar debates were happening in all 12 alien chambers. Each species was weighing their cultural values against the practical benefits of cooperation. After 3 hours of private discussions, the alien delegates returned to the main chamber. Their body language suggested that decisions had been reached, but not without difficulty. The Vith leader spoke first. Our species has decided to join the Galactic Cooperation Network with conditions. What conditions? Asked Hyun. Vith exploration missions must remain under Vith command, clicked the leader. Humans can coordinate with other species, but not control our ships or crews. Agreed, replied Tay immediately. Coordination doesn't require control. The gel formation sang their decision. We will participate, but we require guarantee of access to all mathematical models used in network coordination. Granted, said Sua. Transparency benefits everyone. One by one, each species announced their decision to join the network, but each also requested specific protections or guarantees. The humans agreed to every reasonable request without argument. When all 12 species had spoken, Hyun nodded slowly. Excellent. The Galactic Cooperation Network is officially established. But then the Kex representative raised an unexpected question. What happens if humans change their minds? What if you decide that coordination is no longer interesting? Sua smiled and activated a final holographic display. Then we transfer coordination responsibilities to the species best equipped to handle them. The display showed contingency plans. For human withdrawal from the network, the systems were designed to continue functioning even without human involvement. But realistically, added Day, that won't happen for centuries. The galaxy is very complex, and complexity keeps humans interested. More importantly, said Yuna, the network will become more interesting over time as species develop new capabilities through cooperation. Tay began distributing formal copies of the cooperation agreement. The documents were written in each species' preferred language and format. Implementation begins immediately, she announced. Human coordination centers will be established at key locations throughout the galaxy. Communication protocols will be upgraded within 6 months. The first major cooperation project will be a joint exploration mission to the Galactic Rim, added Day. Vith scouts, Zell navigation, more communication, and representatives from all other species. The aliens began reviewing their copies of the agreement. The terms were exactly as discussed, with all requested modifications included. This is actually happening, clicked the Vith leader with what might have been amazement. Of course it is, replied Hyun. Humans don't make offers we can't deliver. As the formal signing ceremony began, each alien representative added their species official approval to the cooperation agreement. The signatures, marks, chemical traces, and harmonic resonances that made it legal were carefully recorded. There is one final thing you should understand, said Sua, as the ceremony concluded. This agreement doesn't just create a cooperation network, it creates a new type of civilization. Explain, requested the Yex leader. Previous galactic civilizations were based on dominance by one powerful species, Sua explained. Our civilization is based on coordination among many different types of intelligence. This has never been attempted before, added Yuna. We're creating something entirely new. The weight of this statement settled over the chamber. The assembled representatives realized they weren't just ending a war or forming an alliance. They were pioneering a new form of galactic society. What if it doesn't work? Asked the Nul. Representative. Then we learn from the failure and try something else, replied Hyun. That's what intelligent species do. But it will work, said Day confidently, because it's based on understanding rather than force. As the day ended, the alien delegates prepared to return to their home worlds with news of the agreement. But the atmosphere in the chamber had changed completely from 6 days earlier. The 8th and final day had arrived. The space station was buzzing with activity as alien delegations prepared to depart. Ships from 12 different species waited in the docking bays, ready to carry the news of the Galactic Cooperation Network back to their home worlds. In the main chamber, Ambassador Hyun stood with his team for one last meeting with the alien representatives. But this wasn't a negotiation session. It was something more like a debriefing. Before you leave, Hyun said to the assembled aliens, there's one more thing we need to discuss. You need to understand why this negotiation succeeded when so many others throughout galactic history have failed. The alien delegates settled into their positions with curiosity. After 7 days of revelations, they wondered what final surprise the humans might have prepared. They activated a holographic display showing historical records of past peace negotiations between different species. The records went back thousands of years and covered dozens of different conflicts. Every previous peace negotiation in galactic history followed the same pattern, Day explained. One side won, the other side lost. The losers accepted terms they could live with, and the winners took what they could get away with taking. The hologram showed treaty after treaty, all following this basic structure. Territorial concessions, resource payments, military restrictions, and political controls. Winners and losers. Dominance and submission. But this negotiation was different, continued Sua. No one won and no one lost because we weren't playing the same game. What do you mean? Asked the Vith leader. Yuna stepped forward to explain. Traditional negotiations are about dividing limited resources among competing groups. Our negotiation was about creating unlimited opportunities for cooperating groups. She showed comparative analyses of the outcomes. Traditional peace treaties typically lasted between 10 and 50 years before breaking down. The cooperation agreement was designed to become stronger and more beneficial over time. But that's not the real reason this negotiation succeeded, said Tay. The real reason is more fundamental. She activated a new display showing psychological profiles, not of the alien species, but of the negotiation process itself. Traditional negotiations fail because they're based on incomplete information, Tay explained. Each side tries to hide their true capabilities, needs, and intentions. Everyone is guessing about everyone else. But in this negotiation, added Sua, humans knew everything about every species from the beginning. Your capabilities, your needs, your fears, your desires, your decision-making patterns, even your individual psychological profiles. The alien delegates shifted uncomfortably as they were reminded of the extent of human knowledge about their species. More importantly, continued Hyun, we shared that knowledge with you. We showed you exactly how we think and what motivates us. By the end of day 6, you understood humans as well as we understand you. Complete information leads to optimal outcomes. Harmonize the gel formation. But such information is usually impossible to obtain. Usually, agreed Day. But humans are very good at obtaining information. He showed detailed breakdowns of how humans had gathered intelligence about each alien species. The methods were sophisticated but not particularly secret, careful observation, pattern analysis, behavioral prediction, and systematic testing. Any species could use these techniques, Day explained, but most species don't want to invest the time and effort required for truly understanding their opponents. Why not? Asked the Kex representative. Because understanding takes longer than fighting, replied Sua. And most species prefer quick solutions to complex problems. Yuna brought up comparative studies of different species' approaches to conflict. Resolution. The patterns were clear. Most species chose force over analysis, speed over thoroughness, victory over understanding. Humans are different, she explained. We prefer understanding over victory because understanding leads to better long-term outcomes. But understanding also leads to control, observed the more representative through worried chemical signals. You demonstrated that very clearly. Yes, admitted Hyun. Complete understanding does enable control, but control isn't the same as dominance. He activated a final holographic display that would become the most important image of the entire negotiation. It showed 2 different models of galactic civilization. Model 1, human dominance, Hyun explained. Humans use their understanding to control other species directly. Everyone follows human orders and serves human interests. The first model was efficient but sterile. Alien species became essentially tools for human projects. Cultural diversity disappeared. Innovation stagnated. The galaxy became boring. Model 2, human coordination, Hyun continued. Humans use their understanding to help other species achieve their own goals more effectively. Everyone benefits, but no one is controlled. The second model was more chaotic but much more dynamic. Alien species maintained their unique characteristics while contributing to shared projects. Cultural diversity flourished. Innovation accelerated. The galaxy became endlessly interesting. Humans chose Model 2, said Tay, because Model 1 would be boring. And bored humans are dangerous humans, added Day with a slight smile. Yes, alien delegates studied the 2 models carefully. The implications were profound. Humans could have chosen dominance, but selected cooperation instead, not out of morality, but out of psychology. This is why you fear humans at peace negotiations, said Sua, finally addressing the question that had started everything. Not because we're aggressive or warlike, but because we're too intelligent to be predictable in traditional ways. Most species negotiate to win, explained Yuna. Humans negotiate to optimize. Sometimes optimization looks like winning. Sometimes it looks like losing, and sometimes it looks like something completely new. Like today, added Hyun. We created an outcome that no one had imagined before the negotiations began. The Yex representative, who had been quiet for most of the session, finally spoke. So humans are feared because you think differently about victory and defeat? Humans are feared because we think differently about everything, corrected Day. We don't accept that problems have only traditional solutions. We look for new solutions that most species never consider. 3 years ago, the choice seemed simple, said Tay. Fight until one side surrenders, then impose a traditional peace treaty. But humans saw a third option that no one else had considered. Transform the conflict into cooperation, concluded Sua. Change the entire framework instead of working within existing frameworks. The alien delegates sat in contemplative silence as they processed this final revelation. The humans hadn't just outmaneuvered them militarily or psychologically. They had redefined the entire concept of victory. What happens now? Asked the null representative. Now you go home and implement the cooperation agreement, replied Hyun. And in a few years, when other species ask why this peace treaty is different from all the others, you'll tell them. Tell them what? Asked the Vith leader. Tell them that humans don't negotiate to win or lose, said Yuna. We negotiate to change the rules of the game. As the alien delegates prepared to leave the chamber for the final time, they carried with them more than just a signed agreement. They carried a new understanding of what intelligent species could accomplish when they stopped competing and started cooperating. Will we see you again? Asked the Sarn representative, speaking for the first time in days. You'll see us everywhere, replied Day. Human coordination centers will be established throughout the galaxy. We'll be facilitating cooperation projects for centuries. But will it be the same humans? Asked the Gel formation. Will you personally be involved in implementation? Hyun smiled. Some of us will be. Others will move on to new challenges. That's how humans work. We solve problems and then find new problems to solve. What new problems? Asked the more representative. There are other galaxies, said Sua simply. Other types of intelligence we haven't encountered yet. The universe is very large and very complex. The implications were staggering. The aliens were just the beginning of human expansion into galactic civilization. Humans would continue growing, learning, and coordinating on larger and larger scales. This is why species fear humans at peace negotiations, said Hyun as his final statement. Because when humans sit down to negotiate, we're not just solving the immediate problem. We're redesigning the entire framework for how intelligent species interact with each other. Traditional negotiations end conflicts, added Tay. Human negotiations transform civilizations. As the alien delegates filed out of the chamber, they moved with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. They were returning home as representatives of something unprecedented in galactic history, a civilization designed around cooperation rather than competition. The human team remained in the chamber after everyone else had left, watching through the windows as alien ships departed from the space station. Think it will work? Asked Tay. It has to work, replied Sua. We designed it based on complete understanding of all participants. There are no unknown variables. There's always one unknown variable, said Dee quietly. What's that? Asked Yuna. What humans will think of next, replied Day with a grin. Hyun laughed as he gathered his materials. That's what makes life interesting.